Hi BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I am coming to you with my weekly reads for week number 50. I actually had to look it up. I'm like, is that right? But there's actually considered to be 53 weeks this year because it's a leap year. So that's kind of interesting, or it was a leap year or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, there are actually 53 weeks this year. The last week of the year ends on January 2nd. So yeah, that's just, hey, just something a little bit fun that I noticed. This is from December 6th through the 12th. I finished 4 books this week, you guys, and I am super proud of that. I am going to talk in a couple weeks in regards to my reading and how I am planning on in 2021 to slow down and enjoy what I'm reading more. So like I said, I will talk about that in my goals and challenges video that's going to come out. I think it's right after Christmas it's going to come out. So you still have a few weeks to wait on that one, but that's okay. I am thoroughly enjoying what I'm reading. I am thoroughly happy that I'm not needing to fly through books just to make any kind of numbers. I mean, I've way surpassed my Goodreads goal, and you know, that's cool. So I'm not trying to strive to reach a goal again this year like I was at the tail end of last year. And, you know, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I was going to try and not listen to audiobooks for the whole month of December, but spoiler alert, I listened to an audiobook this week because I did miss them. But to me, there's a time and a place for the audio for me personally. I mean, other people, it's their majority of their reading, and that's fantastic. You know, I know my mom's like that. She only reads really via audiobook. But again, I will talk about that all in that video. It's kind of going to be a big, you know, goals video along with like a chatty video about, you know, where I see my reading going, quantity over or quality versus quantity kind of an idea. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be really, really interesting, but I do not want to bog up these videos by doing those kind of chats. So 4 books this week, you guys. So this is probably not going to be a very long video. I've got the 4 books. I want to share with you, of course, what I'm currently reading. I do have a book haul. Like, I did get some books in the mail this week, but I'm vlogging this weekend. So I actually put that book haul in the vlog. So you'll see that on Tuesday. And nothing new from NetGalley this week. And I just have a little bit of knitting to show you. So that's really about it. So let's jump into the books. So the first book that I finished this week, I actually did not even finish a book till Thursday. So from Sunday to Thursday, I didn't finish anything. Or Saturday, because it was last Saturday that I finished a book, and then it wasn't until this Thursday that I just finished something. So that for me, I was in a bit of a reading slump, and I think this will go back towards what I'm going to be talking about in terms of pushing ourselves to read for the numbers, or because we feel we need to get a certain number of books done every month or every week. And like I said, I'm going to be talking about that in that video. But I think I was a little burned out. I wasn't a reading slump necessarily. It might have been a little mini reading slump, but I was definitely feeling a little burnt out. And I did end up picking this first book up on audio because I was looking for something else and I happened to notice it. And I'm like, oh, it's available on audio. And it was one of those ones, I don't know if your Audible or Overdrive does this, but it's called a skip the line loan. So you can jump ahead of everybody else, but you can only borrow it for 7 days. So that's exactly what I did with this one. And that book was Candy Slain Murder by Maddie Day. This book I ended up giving 3.5 stars to. This is a series. It's the 8th book in the Country Store Mystery series. This is a series I've not read yet. It's a cozy mystery series. And of course, as I said, I listened to it on audio, and it was narrated by Laurel Marylton. So this was a fun little cozy mystery, and I liked it a lot. I listened to it over the course of like 5 or 6 days, and I was only listening to it on my way to and from work. Like, it was car only, essentially. I think the one day, because I was working from home on the Wednesday and the Friday. So I think on those days I might have put it on for about like a half an hour, 45 minutes, while I was just sitting here before I started work, like just doing some knitting, just to kind of decompress before I started working for the day. So that was kind of nice too. But yeah, so I mean, I listened to this over the course of 4 or 5 days. I listened to it at 1.5 speed, and I loved it. It went back to why I loved audiobooks. I wasn't flying through audiobooks to fly through books. I was thoroughly enjoying listening to this one. So in this, the premise of this cozy mystery series is about a woman by the name of Robbie, short for Roberta, I believe. And she owns a country store called, what was it called? Pancakes and something. listening to this entire book, it made me like crave pancakes. I'm not kidding. And so she runs this little country store, and there is a fire in town, in this small town. I think it's in Indiana. And they find the deceased body of a woman that has been there for a while. It was well before the fire. So this very prominent anesthesiologist actually lives in this house. And, you know, they always kind of wondered what happened to his wife, and it turns out it was his wife. And then his wife's twin sister, 2 days later, ends up dead. So that's kind of the premise of this cozy mystery. It was a lot of fun, but the thing was, it is 8th in the series. So I think I really did myself a disservice by jumping in this far. Now, this was a NetGalley read. I meant to mention that. So thank you very much to the publisher and to the author for sending me an e-arc of this one to read and review. Now, that being said, you know, I was reading it as a NetGalley, so of course I was just kind of jumping in at book number 8. But there are so many characters. And I think this is a thing that happens with long-running cozy mystery series, that you slowly accumulate these townspeople and these friends and these relationships with other people, and they all kind of appear in these books. So someone who's maybe read the first 7 books, they're kind of like, yeah, I know who everybody is. But for somebody like me jumping in, I didn't understand. Like, I didn't necessarily remember who was everybody. So yeah, so that was a little bit of a disappointment for me. But I think that's part on the author too, that, you know, just because you're writing this book, that you have this incredible cast of characters, you don't have to include every single one of them in every book. Like, let's be fair. Or, you know, if you're going to include them, make them have a more prominent part in the story, not just a walk-on kind of a character, you know what I mean? Because a lot of that was happening too, which is a little disappointing. But anyway, I really enjoyed this one, and I'm very much looking forward to going back and starting at book number 1 and reading the rest of this series. The next book that I finished, oops, excuse me, I have them both back here, 2 of them. 2 print books. So the first one, or this one, that I finished next was The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. I loved this so much. So again, this took me 5 or 6 days to read. It shouldn't have. I was in a little bit of a burnout, as I said. This one was really good. I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. It was so chock full of Christmas, you guys. If you, and I know we've talked about this before, I know my friends Bree and Chloe have mentioned this as well, that, you know, you read a book that's set at Christmas time, but Christmas is like mentioned, or you really don't get the Christmas vibes off of it. This one very much gave me the Christmas vibes. It's about a woman by the name of Kate who lives in this small town in England, and she agrees to sign up for this 12 Dates of Christmas, where over the course of like a month or so, she goes on 12 different dates with 12 different guys. And each chapter is a date, but it's more than that. Like, it takes place over a few days before the date, but each chapter is kind of named after kind of what happens. Like, there's one chapter called Wine Me, Dine Me. So they go to a wine bar for the date. You know, a lot of the dates are super creative. It's like making gingerbread houses, or going on a trek through the snow, or one was an escape room, which was totally fun. So I think that anybody who has ever dated and has been on, you know, their fair share of bad dates might really appreciate this book. Now, the thing is, you see the romance from the start. Like, you know who Kate's going to end up with. And it didn't ruin it for me, though. I thought it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend this one. Yeah, it was just absolutely delightful, and I'm so, so glad that I ended up picking it up. The next one that I finished, so I finished that book and The Candy Slain Murder both on Thursday, and then I finished these last 2 books yesterday on Saturday. So the first one was Santa Baby by Lisa Renee Jones. This one I gave 3.5 stars to. I read it, of course, as a mass market paperback. It's book number 4 in the Dress to Thrill series from the Harlequin Blaze line. It is Harlequin Blaze number 512, published originally in December of 2009. And yeah, contemporary romance. I really don't have a lot to say about this one, to be completely honest. It was very, very adult. Lisa Renee Jones, if you look at her, like if you go onto her author page on either Goodreads or Amazon, she writes very, very, very spicy. I mean, I think a lot of her stuff outside of her Blaze novels delves into the more dark romance genre. But her stuff gets very, very adult. And this is essentially about a very quiet woman by the name of Karen, who has a hard time coming out of her shell. And then she ends up dressing up like Marilyn Monroe for this charity auction. And she meets a guy named Baxter, who's the head of some big, his family runs a very successful chain of coffee shops, aka think Starbucks. And so he's very wealthy. She is not so much. She owns a little bookstore. And they, of course, have a relationship, and it gets hot and heavy. So, yeah. I mean, it was cute. 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, you know, for what it was. It was fun. I mean, if you like Lisa Renee Jones, I highly recommend that you pick this one up. She has a book out called A Cowboy for Christmas. And if you pick up the mass market paperback of that one, this story is included in the back. So, just so that way, if you want to pick it up, because this has been republished for Kindle with a different cover. So it won't be this Blaze cover. It'll be a different cover. So if you're looking for it, just look for the title. The title hasn't changed. And the last book that I finished this week, you guys, not on my TBR, but like I said, I was in a bit of a, you know, burnout from reading, and I just wanted to pick up something completely trashy and completely mindless. And I did. And I loved it. And I read it in 2 days. On paperback, when I read this originally when I was like much, much younger, like 17, 18 years old, it was 350 pages. Now, the Kindle edition, these are all available up on Kindle Unlimited. The Kindle edition said it came in at 219 pages, but I counted it for my purposes as the original mass market paperback. Because you got to get that page count up, you guys. So the book that I read was The Evil Twin by Francine Pascal, actually written by Kate William. This is book number 100 in the Sweet Valley High series. Now, I was slowly doing a reread through this series, and I think I got up to book 8, but I way jumped ahead to book 100. This was so trashy, you guys. I mean, and trashy in every good way possible. For anyone who is of a certain age, like I am, who read this series growing up, you know this mini-series. So this is part of a mini-series. And it started off with, and I have the first book way up there. I can't really grab it, though, from where I'm sitting. And it started out with A Night to Remember, which was this prom. So the twins go to this prom, and then one of them gets drunk, and they go in the car with the other's boyfriend, and there's a car accident, and the boyfriend gets killed. Then over the next 4 or 5 books, I think, it goes through kind of the aftermath. And like the next book is literally called The Morning After. And then there's one called The Verdict, and one called because the one sister's being accused of murdering, like vehicular homicide and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, it's very, very soap opera. I mean, very soap opera. And then the whole thing is that there is a girl who looks just like the twins, Jessica and Elizabeth, who wants to kill Elizabeth to take over her life. And it's just what I wanted and just what I needed. And it was so much fun. I gave it 4 stars, you guys. I mean, a part of me wanted to give it 5 stars because it just was perfect. But I thought, it's not exactly the best piece of literature. So I gave it 4 stars because it fit what I wanted it to fit over the weekend. And that was fantastic. And I was so happy that I read it. A part of me now wants to go back and read like A Night to Remember and then read through the next books and then get to this one again. Maybe I'll do that next year. My yearly reading of An Evil Twin from Sweet Valley High. But yeah, this one was absolutely so much fun. And like I said, if you guys have read the series, you know that this book was just, if you read this one in particular, this is such a well-known book in this series. Like, you know, it kind of set the bar for all the craziness that happens in Sweet Valley. And yeah, it was so much fun. So much fun. Excuse me. So what am I currently reading? I've currently got another audiobook on the go. So I had planned on reading this one in print format because I clearly have it in print book format. But I was looking for the e-copy last night at my library, just to make it easier instead of carrying this big tome back and forth to the office. And they didn't have the e-copy available, but they had a skip the line copy available for the audiobook. So I decided to pick it up on audio. And I mentioned it this morning to Brie and Chloe, and Brie actually said that I think that she's read this one, and she would have liked it a bit better if it had been on audio, because there were a couple parts of the book that were a little bit slower. So I'm super glad I picked it up on audio, and that is Mistletoe and Mr. Right by Sarah Morgenthaler. This is the second book in the Moose Spring series. I read book number 1 last month, and I gave it 5 stars. It was my favorite book of the month. So I have high expectations for this one. But yeah, I am super excited about it, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not very far in. I think I'm like 12 pages. I just listened to it for a few minutes last night while I was on my way to pick up my husband from work. But maybe while I'm doing some editing today, I might pop it in for another hour or so, because it's 12 hours long on audio and I only have it till next Saturday night. So I do need to spend a little bit of extra time listening to this week just to get through it. Now, if I don't finish it in time, I can just finish reading whatever I haven't listened to on audio, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. But yeah, so I am reading that one. And then the other one, which I haven't started yet, my print book. I like to have, my goal now is an audiobook and an ebook or print book on the go. And I got a print book right now, and that is Meet Me Under the Mistletoe by Brenda Harlen. This is a Harlequin special edition romance. This one just came out in November of 2020. And yeah, it says, "Can Christmas wishes come true?" And I'm very much looking forward to starting this one. I haven't started it just yet, so I cannot wait. And that'll be my game plan as well for this afternoon. Some booktube and some reading. And then the last thing I want to share with you guys, like I told you, like I'm at 15 minutes. This is going to be a short video this week, you guys. My knitting. So I had some reverse knitting this week because I was working on my sock that I showed you guys last week. And I realized somewhere along the line, I really messed up the pattern. I had the pattern wrong. I had too many stitches on the needles for some reason. So I ended up ripping the whole thing out that I had done. Now, I wasn't that far in, but I did get some more work done this week, and I cast it back on, and I'm not far. Today, I should get the heel put in. Now, the goal is to get this pair of socks done by Christmas Eve. Today is the 12th, 13th. I have 11 days to finish a sock and a half. Can I do it? We shall see. But there's where I am. So there is, of course, the top, like there's the ribbing that goes along the top of the sock. And then this is the leg. So that's what I've done so far. And I'm really, really liking it. And Rainy, my good friend from Rainy Day Reads, her and I are knitting the same yarn. And we're doing the same pattern. But she's knitting hers toe up. So if you watch her videos or check her Instagram out, you can see the sock like being built the other way, which I think is really, really fun that we're doing that. And yeah, I'm really loving this. So the yarn for this is from Ravenswood Fiber Company. They are from Nova Scotia, Canada. So Canadian yarn company. Yay, Canada. And they, Sam is the woman who runs it, and she's super duper awesome. And the colorway is called Christmas Lights. Now you can't see it so much in the sock, I don't think. You'll see, I think you can see more here. See how sparkly that is? Isn't that awesome? So yeah, so it's called Christmas Lights, and I don't think it's available anymore. I think it was kind of like a one-time deal. But yeah, I hope she brings it back, like, you know, because I've had some people ask me where I got the yarn from. So yeah, it is super, super awesome. So the other thing, and I meant to grab this, so give me a second, just bear with while I lean over, is my other sock pattern. So I did cast on another pair of socks this week too. So I'll explain this one first of all. Rainy and I were talking, and she's massively trying to knit all the Christmas stuff, like all stuff for Christmas gifts for people. And I remember my first year as a knitter too. I like wanted to knit everybody's stuff for Christmas, and then I quickly realized that that's craziness. I love my family and friends, but I cannot possibly knit everybody something for Christmas because unless I start in January. So anyway, what we were joking about was, like, she said, oh, next year maybe I'll just make people ornaments. So that got me onto Ravelry.com, which is a great resource if you're a knitter or crocheter or fiber artist. It's got tons and tons of patterns. And I was looking at patterns for ornaments. And I came across this. And it is a pattern set that's put out by, I cannot remember the dyer's name. She dyes yarn, and she also creates patterns. And she's got some beautiful patterns. But anyway, so she has created this advent for like sock ornaments, like a hand knit sock that becomes an ornament. So essentially, I think it's $12 for this set of patterns, and you get a new pattern every day. So it's not like you get all 24 at the beginning. You get one a day. I'll leave link to the Ravelry page in the description box below. So far there are 13 patterns released. So there are, 9 more to come? And anyway, they're little mini sock patterns. And I initially got the crazy idea to knit all 24 of them by the 24th. That's never going to happen. No. I would not get any reading done. I would not be able to go to work. I wouldn't be able to do any of those things. I'd be straight knitting little socks. But I did do one. So this is the other little bit of knitting that I did. Guys, look at this. Look at it. Isn't it delightful? Like an actual heel. Like, really? It's a little mini sock. Isn't that just the most precious thing you've ever seen? So I'm going to put something on here and I'm going to hang it off my tree as an ornament because I've done the one. So what I've decided to do is for the rest of the patterns. So this is the first day's pattern. I think it was called peppermint something or other, peppermint sticks maybe. But they're actual patterns. Like you can't really see it there, but there is some patterning in this sock, right? The thing is that on such a small pattern, you really can't tell. Now, the one thing that I always wish I did when I started knitting socks was socks wear out. When you wear them, especially if they're hand knit, over time they start to wear out. They might catch on something, they might get ripped, you know, and they kind of get destroyed, and you just, like any other sock, you unfortunately have to throw them out. So what I always kind of wish that I had done for all my socks was I wish I had knitted like a little something like this to match my full-size socks so I could always have them and always have this little mini sock to remember all the other socks that I've ever knit, right? So what I've decided to do is I want to knit the patterns that she has done for these 24 days. And I'm going to randomly pick them when I'm ready to cast on a new pair of socks. I'm going to randomly pick them. I do have to re-engineer the pattern a little bit because they are written for a very tiny sock. So I just have to do some math to figure out the pattern for a full-size sock. But I did cast one on. And it's the second pattern for day number 2. And it is called Christmas Brownies or something like that. So I'm doing these on DPNs. Now my plan is not to pick these up again until I finished the other socks, because those are what I want to finish. When I'm done those, then I can take those needles and use them on here, because I'm not a huge fan of double pointed needles, which is what I'm using for this. So like I said, I had to reverse engineer the pattern a little bit to figure it out for a full size sock, but it's pretty cool. So there's the yarn. So this is the same yarn. And this is from a company called Dancing Dog Dye Works. I don't know if she still dyes yarn. This was from deep in my stash. And it's called The Grinch in Whoville is the colorway. And is it not precious? Is it not fabulous? Like, it's Christmas, but it's not Christmas, right? So yeah, so once I'm done those socks, then I will finish off with these. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But anyway, guys, so I rambled on for an extra few minutes on knitting, which is always fun. But yeah, let me know, how did your reading week go? How is your reading month going in December? Are you feeling the burnout at the end of the year? Or like, are you dealing with Christmas stuff? Or, you know, or how many books did you read this week? And what was your favorite book that you read this week? That's much better to talk about. What was your favorite book that you read this week? And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.